Hello again. I'm Riccardo Ammannato from Italy, and what I would love to share at the next study club, Seattle Study Club symposium, is something regarding adhesive restorative inborn dentition, which is one of my favorite topics. And I developed also an unpublished a molding technique, which is called index technique. And here, part of my publication, I have others, and I will go through later on. And however, here is just, I would say, a taste of what I would love to share with you guys on the podium at this showcase. I have different kind of cases. I have all analog cases with full analog workflow, and I'm sharing this now, a short part of this case, which is fully digital. And you see here we have a patient that is around 39, 40 years old, and so quite young, I would say. And he comes to my clinic. He has a sensitivity. He has also aesthetic issues, as you can see. He's aware that the teeth are wearing down, and he's young. He's looking for a not something aggressive. He went and see other dentists before coming to my clinic, and they all, let's say, propose to the patient very good options, which are full crowns or however all indirect restoration. And he's asking for something where there's not a lot of preparation, or mainly especially in the front teeth, he wouldn't like to have the teeth prepared, okay? So he knows through other people that I do a no prep additive approach, and so he came in and see me, and we discuss. These are all the initial images that I'm just sharing. Obviously, we don't have that much time here in this short presentation to go through in details of everything, but it's just, again, a taste. And these are the posterior images that I have here that I'm sharing with you. Again, sensitivity. He has gastric reflux. He has also some wear due to some bruxism that he's also aware of that. And these are the initial x-rays. Obviously, we did a very deep diagnosis, and again, due to time, I don't have the time again to go through all this. And as I was mentioning previously, this is a full digital case, so the upper and lower scans, the initial bite of the patient, obviously then I deliver to the technician an increase of the vertical dimension that I shared with him. We integrated in exocad also a jaw motion technology with this device, so to share with the technician before delivering the project, the wax up, and merging all the scans with this kind of technology in order to have an individualized situation of the jaw motion of that specific patient. So this is the STL files where we increase the vertical dimension. I mainly went not in CR position here, but in a more advanced neuromuscular position. And as you can see, we have a quite similar amount of increase on the anterior area and also in the posterior area. So we don't have a situation like this but this allows the technician, and obviously then in the clinical part, to have a good amount of increase in order then to, from the technician side, to deliver a digital wax up, okay? And in our kind of approach, kind of philosophy that we have today with my technician is to do a hybrid approach, because we know from the data that we have many options to restore and all of them have pros and cons, plus what I'm going to share with you has pros and cons. We don't have here the time to go through the pros and cons, but also full indirect with full crowns work beautifully, but obviously, as mentioned, pros and cons. So in our philosophy, when we're dealing with cases similar to this one that I'm sharing with you, we do this hybrid approach. So on 20 teeth, I will deliver this molding technique, which is my index technique that I publish, and it's the only single molding technique. That's why it's different from the flow injection, for example, because it's a single molding, and we will see which are the pros and cons later on. While on 8 teeth, strategic teeth, the first molars and the canines, we will place lithium disilicate, monolithic partial restorations, okay, onlays. Why this? We are mixing different materials, so composite and IMAX, because we know, we are aware that especially in worn dentition, we know that composite is not as good from a longevity perspective compared to ceramic, okay? However, composite, we can do a no prep, a full no prep approach, we can mold the teeth, we can repair them, we can save, so biologically structure, we can also save also some money, so financially is also interesting for the patient. But we are placing on strategical teeth, the first molars and the canines, a material which is lithium disilicate, monolithic lithium disilicate, only stained, painted, in order to give stability from an occlusal perspective, okay? From a static and dynamic occlusal perspective. So this is the idea of doing this compromise, which is a compromise from a functional and aesthetic, financial, biological perspective. Okay, so this is the project that the technician delivered to my clinic. You see here the digital project. He wanted to maintain the diastemas that he had on the anterior upper, so we went with his idea. Obviously in the mock-ups, when we delivered the mock-ups that I'm not sharing here with you, so all the provisional to check aesthetic, phonetic, function, opening of the vertical, we did all this before. And we obviously shared with the patient the diastema closer from an aesthetic perspective, but he wanted to maintain his diastemas on the upper. So here, this is one of my latest articles where we had an update with my technician on these stabilizers, because we have added a workflow where we can have stabilizers in order to have a better stability of our single indexes, okay? And we have tried also different ways with analog silicone indexes, and also we now lately in the last years we also using 3D printed indexes, okay? So we are playing with new devices and new resin 3D printed indexes that can be single or can be also connected sextant by sextant. And here I'm just sharing with you in the final part of the restorative approach. In the definitive part, we are just molding, open up the vertical without touching the teeth, with a bare, no prep, or totally no prep. We are molding the second molar and the two premolars, while here I'm going to place one of the pillars, as mentioned, the ceramic onlays, one of the, what I call, one of the 4 table legs, okay, to support from an occlusal perspective this full rehab. And you can see here, these are the stabilizers. Again, sorry, but I don't have the time here to go and describe through videos and images step by step that we have in our data with all our cases. However, the stabilizers that are placed in the same position as the technician built it up in the files. So these stabilizers are going to stabilize, again, we call them the flow lines. They're going to stabilize my single index, because a single index compared to a connected one that is leaning on a sextant, obviously the connected one is more stable, but and that is a cons, but it's a pros. The cons with the connected one is while you're molding that you cannot remove the excess in the interproximal, so that is a big problem after we have cured the material in order to go and do the finishing and to clean up in the interproximal. That's why the idea that I have is to do it single, but so I have an advantage for the single because I can clean up very well in the interproximal before curing, but if I do not stabilize that index, then the copy-paste of my project, of the technician project, is not going to be very, very good. So here I'm just going through here the molding approach of the second molar and the two premolars with the index technique, and here just cemented my my first molar, one of my pillars. Just on the lower, again, I'm on the second molar. I placed my stabilizers. These stabilizers are placed are done with a flowable material that is a very milky shade, because I needed also only to stabilize while I'm landing and molding. Then I'm going to remove it. Obviously, here I'm doing the adhesion. I place my matrix. I also place my Teflon balls in there just to maintain in position the matrix and to avoid some composite material that goes in between while I'm molding. Here I'm placing the heated up composite. Usually I place a packable heated up composite, and then I'm going to mold. Here I have a small, let's say, issue that can happen, a bubble, but again I place some composite material and I go back, I land, and I cure through my silicone index if I'm doing with the analog workflow or with the 3D printed ones. And again, what I want to highlight here using the single ones is after curing, I remove the index, and this is the amount of finishing that I will need to perform. So it's easy, fast, and predictable to go and do the cleanup after curing in the interproximal, while if I'm using a connected one, is a big problem to do this. So here I've just removed my matrix and I've done my finishing, and I will perform the two premolars. Again, I can use Teflon tape, I can use matrices. We have also here pros and cons. And then after doing the posterior, I'm going to do the anterior, and also here I'm trying my 3D printed index. I'm doing it's all no prep, so I'm going to do the sandblasting. Here I'm placing my stabilizers, my flow lines on the buccal and on the palatal side, and checking my index in position. I'm doing all the adhesion and placing the heated up material, and then I'm landing with my 3D printed index. I will remove the excess, and then I will cure through the index with 2 curing lights, 1 buccal and 1 palatal, and this is after a rough finishing, and then I will go and perform the other 3 incisors, because also here I'm doing the molding approach from lateral to lateral, all no prep on the upper and on the lower, while on the canines I'm going to place the pillars, so I'm going to place these veneers, ceramic veneers. Okay, so here just to share with you that if I'm using a connected, whether it's analog, so silicone or 3D printed one, if I use it connected and after curing, this is what I have. And all this excess I need to remove, while if I use a single one is much better. And think if you have all this excess on the posterior, which is much more difficult to go and do a good finishing, a good emergency profile in the interproximal area. Okay, so after molding the 20 teeth, I'm just going to deliver to the patient the 4 table legs, let's call them. Okay, so the upper, so you see the 2 molars and the 2 canines here, and also on the lower. And here I have a video that I have, it's a very long video with all the procedure of the adhesion, sandblasting, adhesion and all that stuff, and the cementation of the onlay on the first lower molar. In this case, you see on the second molar you see the molding, and also the 2 premolars. Obviously we don't have the time here and to go through the whole video, but just to share with you that I have many videos on this approach and also on all the molding approach. And here is another video that cementing the veneers on the 4 canines. Again, here are the adhesion procedure. This is a 3-step patch and rinse, and I'm going to place my additive veneer, just a slight preparation, a bevel on the buccal side, on the worn tip, and the rest on the lingual side is all no prep. So also here is nearly all additive, no prep. Okay, and here is before and after. Okay, where you can see ceramic, canines and the molars, and the first molars, and the rest is all molded. And the other sextant are the same. So we have in the opposing dentition same materials working all together. Here again, from lateral to lateral is composite, and the canines are ceramic. Okay, and this is the upper, the palatal side, the working side, no prep additive from lateral to lateral, and we have here the Emax restorations, and this is a buccal view, and you can see the additive incisor from lateral to lateral and the canines here. So this is the final new, let's say, with the opening of the vertical dimension, the new occlusion, the new, let's say, static occlusion, which is at the end of the story the most important part. Then comes obviously aesthetic, but this is the most important part. Usually I also deliver a Brax checker to check the jaw motion overnight on the patient, and here is a comparing phonetic while speech with the jaw motion before and after. And if you can see here the motion in the before, it wasn't really so balanced like we have it after 6 months of delivering my full rehab. So that means also the stabilizing the new occlusion, we have also better balance from a neuromuscular situation, at least from this digital jaw tracking situation. And so at the end, what my key points usually when I do these full rehabs is on the posterior, I want to have support and a static for TMJs and guides to avoid interferences, especially in the posterior area, and protocols and patient and operator are the important variables, I think, in whatever we do in dentistry. When possible, as a philosophy, I want to choose open cases for reintervention, because I know that everything I personally do, it will fail over time. So I would like to have something where I could go through again and maintain then the most two structure. I think for me is one of the primary goals. Utilize least invasive approaches, using least invasive techniques, and also repairable techniques whenever possible in order to give a good service, a customer care to the patient. So thank you very much, and hope to see you at this showcase at the Seattle Study Club. Bye bye.